Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some more MBTI. Today we're going to be checking out the mind of Mr. B. Allen, otherwise known as Mr. Ballen. And so we're going to look into his interview with the Sean Ryan podcast. But before we begin, let's talk about the system because you have not seen MBTI done quite the way that I do it. I use this type grid to help determine your type. We are looking for examples in other people of the way that we see ourselves. So maybe it's a turn of phrase, maybe it's the way that he addresses a situation, but it's helping us to recognize things about ourselves so that we can type ourselves. That is the point of this. It's not a medical diagnosis, nor am I a medical professional. But the things that we are looking for are these 5 questions down below. Are you focused on things or ideas? Is it the here and now, the physical things and the sensory that has happened? Or is it the ideas and concepts and the idea of looking forward into the future? With those 2 things, do you either grab new ones or old ones? Is it about finding all of them or about the best one? Do you do that for yourself or for the tribe? Is it about giving to the tribe all of these things or ideas and then taking your enjoyment, or do you take your enjoyment first and then pass it along? Are you rigid or flexible? Do you say it has to be my way or the highway, or do you fit around other people's ideas? And direct and informative. Do you tell the whole story in one shot, or do you tell the whole story 2 or 3 times and chase off down some rabbit holes? These are the things we are looking for as we go forth into this interview. We are well into it. We're about 15 minutes in so that he can get good and comfortable. It's not his format. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff. Like I don't know who he is, and this is part of me wanting to know more. So we're going to look and see for these 5 examples: things, ideas, new and old, self, tribe, rigid, flexible, direct, informative. Let's go.
Nothing scheduled. Yeah, no, I think at that point I realized that maybe my fisticuff game was not as good as I thought it was.
I'll just defend myself from now on.
Exactly.
But, wow. I mean, your parents are renowned journalists.
Yep.
And they're probably not used to this.
I was like such an anomaly within my family. I mean, like my family are so, by the books, if you will, like get good grades, got good jobs, respected in their careers. And there was no reason that I wouldn't have learned to be that way as well. But instead they have this kid who's just like gone off the rails and is getting in fights and getting his
That's tribe pushback.
kicked and just, breaking curfew every night and just kind of being like that trouble teenager.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a whole lot of not quite examples.
And I'm sure that I pissed my family off like mad. I was like the most insufferable teenager ever. Mostly because I just believed that I was just better than everybody. And
That is some control tendencies.
that I don't need school. I don't need any of
My way or the highway, right?
this. Like, I'm just so cool. I can do whatever I want.
All about me. So that's leading towards self, and we're looking at control. So self and control sometimes are really close. It's really like
It really wasn't until I actually went to college, believe it or not, that even though I barely graduated, my mom, who's an amazing writer, wrote my college essay because I wasn't doing the application, I wasn't doing anything, and just being a good mom, she's like, okay, fine, I'll write your essay because you're not going to do it. And she...
Okay, so that's a little bit of completion resistance, so that's not a best things.
wrote this beautiful essay that I actually just read the other day. It's about my childhood best friend who passed away, but it's an amazing story. And so I sent it off to the school, UMass Amherst, and my grades were abysmal. I should not have gotten into the school. And the school contacted me to say, your grades are not really what we're looking for. But that essay was something else.
Okay, so that's something, right?
You're in. And so I got accepted to the school on the strength of my mother's essay and immediately failed out of the school. Like immediately. I got in trouble so quickly. I was in a riot. This is in one semester.
Okay, so this is a lot of I. This is a lot of self. Everything he has said so far is leading me towards self and control, both, like separately, but together. He seems to be focusing on the things that have happened, but not the best things that have happened. So it seems to be holding open the experiences, right? Gathering all the new experiences. So that's going to lead me towards things and new. He seems to be fairly informative. He seems to be self and he seems to be control. We're going to look for some confirmations. We are not nearly firm on that yet, but it's not about the ideas. It's about the things that have happened. The ideas are there as support. It was a great essay in support of my actual great son, right?
There was a riot that I was a part of.
What was the riot about?
So it was just so dumb. So here are the things I did in college. In one semester, I've only been in college for a few months. I just didn't go to class. And when people say that, you think, oh, they probably missed a couple classes. I mean, I didn't go to class. I don't know how
That's some completion avoidance there too.
I thought I would ever pass a course by never attending one, but I didn't go to class. I got in trouble constantly in the dorm, but it was always like little things like noise violations or, being slightly disrespectful to somebody who then reported it. Little things that made me look like a jerk, but I
Control.
had so many that at some point it has to get reported to the dean when someone has 30 plus violations, and I had 30 plus violations.
So that is sensory deprival, right? You're depriving someone of the best experience in that situation, right? Unintentionally, right? You're focused on self. Your self pleasure comes first, and so that's understandable. I'm a little bit torn between the things and the ideas here because, like, it's not really firm on either one. We're talking about the experiences. There are a variety of experiences, but I'm not sure.
And so on the day that my grades came out, and I've been lying to my family saying, oh, getting all A's, killing it, A's and B's, doing so good. The grades came out, and it was like, your son has a 1.016 GPA, which is a series of F's and I think 2 D's. And the 2 D's should have been F's. It was the teacher saying, I'm not giving you an F so you don't have to repeat the course. I also was kicked out of the dorm and was told if you're going to stay at the school, which seems questionable to begin with, you can't be in the dorms anymore because you have 30 plus violations. You have to live off campus. And my family couldn't afford to just pay for me to go live off campus. Not to mention, I clearly am not capable of being an adult. And then on top of all that, at the same time, what I was beginning to learn at this exact moment when we're meeting with the dean was there was this riot at UMass Amherst that happened a couple days earlier that I thought was, no big deal. I was just part of it, whatever. Our football team, so UMass Amherst has a Division I football team, but it's Division I AA, which means it's kind of like in a tier down from like the big time schools. And so as a result, people are very invested in the UMass football team, but it's a smaller audience, I suppose. Like, no one's going to UMass Amherst because they're like, I just want to support the football team. That doesn't really happen. But you have people going to the University of Texas to do that because that's a big time program. But UMass Amherst is not that.
Okay, so that was a couple of examples in his support of, like, I'm still not getting a whole lot of either things or ideas. There seems to be a lot of examples, but they don't seem to be firmly rooted in things. So it may be an NI situation where he's looking at best ideas, but he hasn't really expressed best ideas. We're definitely not holding open many ideas, right? We're holding open experiences. We're holding open a lot of experiences. We're avoiding the best experiences, and we're holding open the many experiences. So that's more SE than SI. But like most of the experiences or the examples so far seem to be things and new as opposed to ideas, right? We're not even really getting a whole lot of best ideas in support of, though. It's several ideas in support of. That's what's really throwing me off.
However, in my freshman year, our football team just dominated. They outperformed better than anyone thought they would, and they made it into like a big bowl game or something. I forget what it was, but no one really knew. But apparently our football team was really good, and they got into this bowl game, and it wasn't even at UMass. It was in New York where this game was happening, and it was a good game, and the team lost. Our team lost. UMass lost this bowl game. And it was aired on the UMass Amherst like local TV, so all the students could watch it. And again, no one really cares about the football team. But for some reason, it was like, I think we should riot now that our team lost. And so there's this part of UMass
That's definitely not best experience, right?
Amherst. It's an area on campus called Southwest. I think there's 5 parts of the campus. It's a huge school. And if you look it up, the most densely populated place in the entire country, in the United States, is the southwest area of UMass Amherst, because they have these high-rise dorms that are 25 stories tall, and they pack students into these dorms.
And again, we're getting several examples of actual things. Right? We're not dealing with the future. We're dealing with the past. We're not dealing with the concepts. We're dealing with the actualities. So this is a lot of examples of actual things. It is again leading me towards things new. He seems to be quite self. He seems to be very controlled, and he seems to be very informative. Sean's not having to say a whole lot. He asks a question, and then the next 15 minutes is the answer. So this seems to be a fairly good fit. Let's see. We'll give it a couple more minutes just to give a good things, ideas, right? Let's see if we even get any ideas. So,
I mean, you are on top of each other.
and like that's not a bad thing. It shows your focus. His focus are the actual experiences, right? He's bringing a multitude of actual experiences to the audience. He's enjoyed them first, now he's giving them away.
There's so many people in this area, and there's all these low-rise apartments. I mean, it's a mini little city in the middle of western Massachusetts, and everybody.
Like even the examples of this little city in the middle of Massachusetts is an actual thing. It's an actual experience, right? It is an actual example of a physical thing.
In Southwest has this reputation for being like it's the party spot of you.
Now that is an idea brought in support of the thing. The party spot is the box, right? And that is only being brought up in support of this. We're not getting grand concepts. This is my box. This is the box that supports these things.
UMass Amherst. And so people that want to go live in Southwest, they want to go party. And so you have all these kids who are all riled up, that have no parental supervision. Our football team is lost. It's 8 o'clock at night. And it was just like everybody just began going outside for no reason. We're all just standing around in the lot like, we should do something. And the thousands of people are out here. And suddenly this kid, he climbs up on the cafeteria where there's this awning that kind of looked out into the courtyard in front of all these high-rise buildings. So the dining hall. He climbs up. And everyone's like, oh, what's he going to do? And he goes, put this on YouTube. And he runs and jumps off of the awning. It's like 20 feet up. And he's expecting the crowd to catch him. And they don't. And he just shatters his legs.
Ooh.
Just hits the ground. And you see him just crumple. And we all just began cheering. Like, yeah! And then the riot ensued. And it was just like chaos. People just began like breaking stuff and running around. And in like an hour, they had riot police on horseback, hundreds of them, surrounding Southwest, firing tear gas and rubber bullets inside. All the normal kids went inside their dorms. They're like, this is not a good time to be out here. I'm like, put my shirt around my face to protect against tear gas. I'm completely sober, by the way, completely sober. And I'm like, I'm staying. I'm not missing this. I'm staying out. But
I'm going to gather this experience.
they had cameras recording everything. And so on the day that the grades have come out, I'm getting booted from the dorm, people began getting expelled in my dorm for the riot. And the way it worked is they had this anonymous webpage set up, the UMass police did, where anybody at the school could look at all these pictures from the riot, just random still shots from the riot. And if you knew someone, you could anonymously name them and they would get in trouble. And so it was like anybody who had an enemy began getting named. And I found 3 pictures of myself, clear as day, on this website. And I definitely did not have friends at the school. I had pissed off a lot of people.
Control people tend to do that.
And I'm like, someone's going to name me. It's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen. I'm going to get expelled on top of everything else. And so I had to turn to my dad, who's come up to talk to the dean about my grades and about getting kicked out. And afterwards, after he's heard all these horrible things about his son, I had to pull him aside and be like, and also I was in a riot, and I'm probably going to get expelled if I don't withdraw immediately.
Oh, man.
So I left school.
All right, so we're going to do the typology, and then we'll look for confirmations in the next part of this. So let's go ahead and transition over to here. This is the system that we use, right? Things and ideas are going to give you the columns coming down. We are dealing with things. We're going to be on the left-hand side. We are dealing with new that is going to give us the far left-hand column. We are looking at self. That is going to give us the top two rows. And we are looking at control, right? That is rigidity is control. That is going to be a T. That is going to be the top right left-hand corner. So that is an ISTP. And here in 1 second, I will find the button that will allow you to see that. The next part, the direct and informative, comes with the third slot down. It depends on whether or not you are informative or direct. If you are informative, it means you are volunteering all of the information. You are giving it away quite freely. That is an extroverted third slot function. The first two slots are how you receive information. The second two slots are how you give it back. And if you give it back freely, you are giving it back extrovertedly. If you were introverted, you're holding it to yourself. That would be a regular ISTP, but he is most definitely informative. That's going to put us on the alternate side. What does that mean? He is going to be very much concerned with and understand his own logic and go with that almost all the time. Doesn't really matter what other people think. It is all about what I think. He feels responsible for the current experience, right? Him wanting to be part of this riot so that he could have that personal experience is an example of that. That is gathering this new experience, not necessarily the best experience. It's just something new. He does that without thinking about his logic in the process. The third eye is what you look forward and see things, see your future with. It is also where you get defensive. And for him, that is going to be ethics and what other people feel about the situation. We had a fairly good example of that, and we'll look at it going forward. But that it is concerned with what other people are feeling. Everybody's feeling this way is something that they would say a lot. The throat is where you miscommunicate and misunderstand. So that feeds what you're giving back. Your throat feeds into your third eye, and your third eye is how you see the future, but your throat is how you communicate that. And you do it a little bit wrong. There's not a lot of information that makes it to the middle two slots. You got a lot of positive information at the top, a lot of negative information at the bottom, and they meet in the middle with not a lot of bandwidth. So for him, that is going to be the best possibility, the best idea, the best guidance going forward. Being involved in a riot was probably not the best idea. Probably not. There's not a lot of information right there. And that's going to feed into, well, everybody feels like this is the right thing to do. And that's going to feed into, here's a new experience, let's eat it up. The logic seems sound to me. The TE heart is going to be what he really wants to do, however, and that is going to be other people's thoughts and rationales. And this is a hard one to explain how you feed into other people's thoughts and rationales. Most people who are trying to do this become authorities on a subject, right? Whatever that subject may be. Now, he's a Navy SEAL. That is somewhat of an authority on a subject. By the way, hoo-yah shit me. But if he can become that authority in the proper manner, that is what's going to feed his soul. When he is making other people think the correct things. The SI heart or SI solar plexus is what's going to feed that, and that's going to be organization and keeping the best experience, right? SI is best and worst. SE is all of them. So keeping the best and worst separated to where they actually belong, and keeping your organization correct will feed into other people thinking the correct things. So if you are doing what you are supposed to do to ensure, okay, everybody sees all of these experiences, but this actually is the best one according to the logic, let me give that to other people, that is it where you're going to shine. The sacral is the trickster energy. It is the sexual energy. It is the part that you intentionally choose the wrong thing. Nobody ever says, hey, I'm going to choose the wrong thing. But people do it all the time. Normally, it is because of these two slots. For him, that is going to be the FI, which is how I feel about the situation. It's not about what everybody else feels here. It is about how I feel. Well, he's misunderstanding how he feels, right? He's defensive over everybody else's. He doesn't understand his own. So he takes everybody else's ethics as his own, or his tribe's ethics as his own, and that's what he bases it off of. His morals don't come into it. He doesn't even understand what the morals are or why they are a thing. And then finally we get to the base. The base is where you get almost entirely incorrect information. It's not something like, it's not a bad thing, it's just something that happens, right? There's good information, there's bad information. You're inclined at the top to get the good information. You're inclined at the bottom to get the bad. And for him, that is going to be the best possibility, or the keeping open the ideas, the many possibilities, foresight, and predicting the outcomes, right? Not what the best outcome may be, but what some outcomes may be. And for him, that is almost non-existent. Seeing, hey, there might be other consequences coming out of this riot is an example of that. But now we're going to look for different examples of the same things, right? We're looking this time to see examples of the TI and whether he is making logic choices. Now, he's going to do that almost flawlessly. It is hard to see. So we're going to look for the experiences, right? We've seen a lot of the current things, right? These are the things that are happening. These are the actual sensory things. Not the best one, but many of them. We're going to look, see if he is defensive over the ethics of others, right? We've seen a couple of examples already of that, but we didn't point them out specifically because we weren't looking for them specifically. And then we're going to be looking for whether he is missing the best opportunity. We've seen that again. We're also going to be looking for the base and the sacral to see if he is missing ideas and if he is getting wrong the morals of the situation, right? And that's, like, morals are highly subjective. They are your personal beliefs, so there's no really wrong, but it will be wrong in his own mind. So now we're going to have to do another few minutes and just to get some confirmation of those things. Let's go.
I withdrew and I went and lived in my mom's basement, and that's where I ultimately discovered I was being a big idiot, and I turned my life around. So,
You had mentioned that your mom, in her essay that she wrote for you to get into school, you lost your childhood friend.
I did.
Which, if she wrote about that, it must have been pretty traumatic. Can we visit that?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. So my best friend growing up was this kid named. We met when we were 3. You know, I moved to this house in Quincy. He lived on the same street as me, and we were, you know, brothers for life. I have a cross I carved into my arm with him. We were like blood brothers, you know. And he tried to cauterize it because it would stop bleeding, and he ended up just burning it. So it's just a big burn that I call a cross on my arm. But he and I were, you know, like brothers, and he came from a household that was totally broken. I mean, as dysfunctional and abusive as you could possibly come from. And so in many ways, he was kind of adopted into our family. I mean, every vacation we went on was with us. Any time we did anything was with us. And my parents treated him definitely like a son. But when he got older, like 18, he fell into, you know, drugs. I mean, his whole family is... I mean, not his whole family. There was plenty of people that were very, like, heroin addicts and all that. And so he got addicted to at least heroin, if not something else. I mean, he was really out there. He ended up robbing my house, which I honestly forgive him for. It's just one of those, I mean, if you've been around people with serious addictions, they are not the person that they...
Okay, that is a tribe ethic defense, right? I don't know that I could have gotten a better example of that. The rationalization of the tribe's ethics, right? This is his homie. This is his blood brother. They have burnt each other in recognition that they are tighter than brothers. This is his tribe. This is his ethics. This is where he determines where the ethics comes from, is from this kid. His experience with this kid literally drives everything going forward. That is not me in a professional manner. That is me as an observer of people and a delver of minds. And so he is rationalizing the ethics in this sentence, right? It is a great example of the FE in the throat, in the third eye slot. He is getting defensive over his friends' choices of ethics. Like I couldn't ask for a better example of that.
It used to be. And then he overdosed, but he overdosed when he was 21. And at the time, I think he had like a 12-year-old son. I mean, to give you do the math on that.
Man.
So, yeah, just really sad. And the essay that my mom wrote was, you know, we looked the same. We were very similar looking. We had such similar attitudes and outlooks on life. But it's what happens when you grow up in a household that's totally broken and dysfunctional and abusive, and you know what happens when you're raised in a healthy household by and large. I mean, that's basically what she was writing about without saying it. Is, you know, two kids, you know, they have everything in front of them. One kid his environment is healthy and happy winds up, you know, succeeding, so to speak, and the other winds up dying.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and actually the essay she wrote was before he OD'd, but it was right when he was going in and out of jail for there was this horrible article that came out that, you know, he robbed a gas station with a syringe that he told the guy was infected with HIV. You know, I mean, this guy has fallen to a very low level. And then when he passed away, it was, in a weird way, kind of a relief. As horrible as that sounds, you just knew this guy's life was horrible. So, yeah, it's just the huge contrast in how our lives played out.
A lot.
That's very interesting, right? So we did get to see some of the logic playing out there. It wasn't some very clear examples, but you're not going to get very clear examples from a divine on that, right? We got several examples of the things. We got the whole story. We got a slight rabbit hole or two. And so, again, this was very much the confirmation of the defense of the ethics here. The FE defense of why he's making the decisions are based in the tribe, right? And he is very much a self person, so that's like severe tribe pushback type of thing. The NE and the FI, right? The morals in the situation are flexible. They're not firmly established. They're based upon someone else's ethics. All of those things are going to play into this. Not seeing the best possibilities is going to play into that as well. This seems to be a fairly good fit, right? I am not by any means trying to say that I know everything going on inside the mind of Mr. Ballen. I'm going to leave the link down below. As I always do, it is highly recommended to go back and watch the entirety of the podcast. I will be doing that while this cuts up and uploads and stuff. I watch the rest of the podcast because I look for more confirmations, but we're not here to just take somebody else's content. We're looking for examples that we can use in ourselves because there is a system. I've devised a system so you can integrate and strengthen the base and strengthen your sacral and bring up the things that need to be brought up in your life to create in your life the things that you want to create in your life. And having the foundation of understanding how you think and how you give information back and what you're missing can help you strengthen you in the way that you want to be strengthened. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment, not too much confusion to a somewhat complicated topic. I know that I hold unconventional beliefs in MBTI, and so you should definitely start at the beginning and understand the terms. But if you identify at all with Mr. Ballen and the way that he delivers information and the way that he sees things, and you think you might be an ISTP, I have a video for that where we talk exclusively about this type and how to integrate that into yourself. The playlist Infinite Integrations holds the whole system so that you can spend time in prayer and meditation and fasting and learn how to activate all of this for yourself. But if that's a little bit too woo-woo for you, the MBTI parts hold just the scientific half of this. Mr. Ballen, Sean, thank you very much for this. I appreciate the conversation, and I am very much looking forward to the rest of the podcast. To the crew, Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you were here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You're perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit's Take. Peace.